Financial with Christopher Calandra, Certified Financial Planner, is an innovative, comprehensive, informative, and cutting-edge podcast that discusses financial topics ranging from personal finance, economics, politics, and personal growth. Simply Financial will cover intriguing and thought-provoking questions so that the listener can simply increase their financial IQ.
Welcome to the Simply Financial podcast. Thanks for joining me. This is episode number 9 of season 4, and I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. And what I wanted to talk about today, I have my partner Lindy Brock with me, is what should a potential client look for when they're interviewing a new financial advisor, a financial planner. And it occurs to me that there's a good amount of information about this out there, but it always takes the form of what questions to ask. The person's background, how do they get paid, what their compliance record is like, things like that. There's kind of nuts and bolts questions. What Lindy and I wanted to do is talk a little bit about the softer edge of what you're trying to figure out, kind of the relational aspect of the interview process, trying to determine if it's a good match and you want to work with the advisor and his or her firm. So Lindy, thanks for taking a few minutes out of your very busy day. We're super busy here.
Only busy because of you.
Yeah. So the first thing on this subject, and you've seen, actually, we did an episode of the Simply Financial podcast on key questions to ask.
Yeah.
And that's good to have on hand. But you're asking the questions to get information, but there's a lot more that's going on. And the first thing that I wanted to cover, and I'll give you my thoughts and maybe you could share some of yours, is first and foremost likability. It's an intimate relationship, if it's done well, where you're working with a financial advisor. That advisor and the firm are going to know a lot about you, your income, your assets, your liabilities, your goals and objectives. They'll have a sense of whether you're a good spender or a good saver. You're going to have a lot of conversations over the course of the business relationship. Difficult times, such as in the case of unemployment or a self-employed business person that runs into tough times. And then on the other side, there are going to be instances where you'll share successes, the birth of a child, getting to actual retirement, things like that. So the point is, during the relationship, you're going to need to like the person that you're working with. So when you're meeting with advisors to figure out who you want to work with, you want to check to see if you actually like them. And that could take, kind of different forms for different people, but it's pretty common. Do you like them? I don't think there's any clients in our practice, I would hope, right, is that they're privately saying, boy, I don't like Chris at all, but he's my financial advisor and I'm satisfied. They just don't go together.
Right. And, it boils down to personality, how people act when they're with you, and we'll get to this later, but what their communication style is, how they react to different things that you say. And I think it really goes without saying. If you are meeting with an advisor for the first time and you naturally don't like them, you're probably not going to work with them. And it's a good indication that you shouldn't work with them.
Yes.
If you get a bad feeling or, something like that, or some tick in their personality just kind of bothers you, it's really not going to work in the long run.
Yes. And it's like this in other relationships too. If you have an accountant, like I like my accountant, so I work with my accountant. There's lots of competent accountants. I know, given being a certified financial planner, I know lots of accountants. We interact with lots of accountants in our day-to-day business dealings. So, I have lots to choose from.
I disagree with you on the accountant side.
Really?
Yeah. So accountants, you don't really, in my opinion, I don't really think of an accountant like, this is somebody who I'm going to tell like my deepest, darkest secret. Well, some people could.
Yeah.
But this isn't somebody, I'm going to hire them for one specific reason, and that's to properly prepare my tax statements. And I want them to be 100% accurate. If I don't like them, I don't care. As long as they produce good work, With a financial advisor, to me, it's different. You
Okay.
are having like a lifelong relationship with this person, and they are going to help you go through each one of your very important life events and how that affects you. I mean, some of the conversations we have with people, they cry, they laugh, and all of these things that is more important to have a personality with than an accountant that is made to process numbers.
So you do your own taxes, so it's not
Yeah.
a perfect example. But how many people do you work with regularly in your life, whether it's in the financial realm or otherwise, where you're the client and you don't like them?
I don't know. I
would think it's
I don't
zero.
think I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
All right. So likability is really important. And it also works the other way too, because I can't speak for other advisors and other firms, but as a planning firm, for me, especially because we've had so much success over these last couple of years, and we are not desperate for business. We want to help people. We want to grow the business. But I think we also know who we are and who we serve the best. I certainly do. Is we also want to like the people we're working with. It is a two-way street. If they really like us, but for whatever reason we don't like them, that's not a good thing. And that's not to say that happens a lot, right? Because most people are good people and we could find ways to get along. But there have been instances over the course of my career where, it might be one-sided, where for whatever reason, there's just that not likability coming from me towards them, and that's not really a good business relationship either. So it does go both ways.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think most of that has come from you started your own business, you had your own clients, and then part of your plan to grow your business was to purchase other businesses.
Yes.
And so you inherited some clients that didn't choose you.
That's true.
And that you didn't choose. So trying to get along with each other and finding your own way, some of them you did like, some of them you didn't get along with, but they didn't initially choose you.
Yes. And please understand, listeners, when we say get along, it's not like we're fighting and this, that, the other thing. It's a likability, sort of like, would you want to go out with that person for a beer? There might be people in your life where you say they're good people, but I really don't want to go out and have a drink with them. They're good people, but I really wouldn't want to hang out with them on a Saturday night.
Yes.
We're not talking about arguing or fighting or having disagreeable relations. So that's good. The second thing, and it's related, that I wanted to touch on is the trust factor. Because again, this is important, as you said, and it's intimate, which is what I said. You need to trust the advisor. So when you're asking questions and you're having the interaction, you're really trying to figure out, is this someone I can trust that is going to have my best interest at heart? Can I trust that they're going to make good decisions? Can I trust that they're competent? Can I trust that they will do what they say they're going to do? And you need to look at the trust factor very, very closely. Our clients need to trust us. And when they stop trusting us, they are going to stop being clients.
Yes.
Or at the very least, there will need to be a heart-to-heart conversation about what led to a degradation of the trust bond. And what I found, I want to get your thoughts on this, Lindy, having been at this for longer than you, I've come to the conclusion after doing thousands of meetings with clients and potential clients, is that they decide very early on whether they trust you or not. It's an instinctual gut decision that they make very early on when they first meet you, whether you're trustworthy or not. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I just think it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult as an advisor to try and build that trust bond when they may have decided within a minute of sitting down with you at their kitchen table or my conference room table. And trust is absolutely crucial in this relationship. So what do you think about that?
I agree. I think you start at your first meeting or the first time you actually see somebody or have an interaction with somebody, you are establishing trust right away. And that could be done from, you're making a sales pitch or something, and somebody's sitting in there listening to you. How are you presenting that? How are you presenting yourself? How are they taking that? It can come from you shake a hand with somebody and you're looking at them the whole time, and that eye contact, that reassurance, the way that you shake your hand, everything builds into trust. And it's like you said, the gut feeling that somebody gets, whether they trust you or not, and it's done right away. And if you do not trust your advisor when you first meet them, it's a good indication that you're picking up on something that's there.
I think I'm fortunate. I've gotten lots of compliments and positive feedback over the years, and sometimes bad feedback. But one of the things that I think I'm most proud of is one of my longest standing clients, and we've worked very closely together over the years, and we've built a very good friendship on top of the business relationship, was years ago. I think maybe you know this story, but years ago, I was early in the business. I'm 21, 22 years old, and I was working for a Wall Street firm, and I was assigned this account that didn't have an advisor, and I went out to see them. And he was your type A alpha male on the fast track in corporate America. I mean, he was obviously a man going places. Very impressive guy. And his wife was the traditional stay-at-home mom. They had 2 children, and just seemed like a traditional happy marriage, with him being the corporate warrior and her being the manager of the household. So we have this meeting, and it goes well. They end up staying with me and the firm at the time. And then over the years, the business relationship grew and grew and grew, and became a very fulfilling, profitable relationship for me and good for them. What I find out years and years later is she says to me in kind of a private moment, she's like, "Do you know why we went with you 12 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it was?" I'm like, "No." And she said, "We interviewed lots of financial advisors, and you were the only one that paid any attention to me. Everybody else came in, recognized that Dave was going places and was on the fast track to success, and they only paid attention to him. And you were the only one that paid really any attention or respect to me, and that's why we went with you." Now, the thing about this is, this was not something I learned in training or some book on presentations or sales practices. This is just me, how I grew up. My mom and dad my dad wasn't on the fast track to success, but he worked. My mom stayed home, very traditional marriage, and that was just normal for me, how I was raised kind of thing. It was no technique.
Yeah.
But to me, that was such a huge compliment, because she trusted me, and she went and said, "Look, everybody else might be good for you, but he's going to be good for me." And if you know anything about relationships, when a woman, in my opinion, when a woman in a marriage says X, it's going to be X.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah. So trust is really key. The next thing is the advisor should be a teacher. As a certified financial planner, and Lindy, you're going to be a certified financial planner soon, right? We have a lot of technical knowledge. I mean, I could talk investments and, 30-day moving average. I mean, I could throw around jargon and technical terms, and it's part of my role as an advisor. But when I'm meeting with a potential client, or even with clients, part of my role is to be a teacher. I need to communicate, to educate them at least a little bit, to help them appreciate what's going on, helping them be able to make decisions and feel comfortable with what's going on. So I need to bridge the gap between being technically sound and good at my craft, and being able to teach them without overwhelming them, without them having 40 hours of financial planning homework. And so when you sit with a potential advisor, the